My Uncle Edmund had polio. That's what I'm saying. I've lived in a time of polio, of malaria, of yellow fever. Uncle Edmund was my grandfather's brother. My grandfather loved him dearly. He looked after him with the duty of a beloved. This is what it means to love in a time of epic infection, to tend after the inflicted with the understanding that we're all mandated to live through massive trauma. Uncle Edmund lived in Tunapuna. We lived in Aruka. Sometimes my grandmother sent me to take food to Uncle Edmund in metal food carriers. It was 4 miles away. Sometimes I'd walk and spend the taxi fare on beer on my way back. I was 10. I lived in a time of walking places. I will tell my children this. I'm 42. I will probably not have any. It is Sunday morning at a lover's house, and I am on the verge of weeping as I say this. The food was always still hot when I got there. It was a tropical country. You could walk 4 miles with a tray of hot food and have it stay hot. I lived in a time of heat. Uncle Edmund's house smelled dank, cool. I remember it as always dark, but this might be a lie. I unhinged the trays from the carrier, got an enamel plate from the cupboard and dished the food out for him so I could take back the empty carrier, so I could bring him food next day. I'd pour him juice made from reconstituted oranges mixed with water and sugar. He talked. The polio made it hard to understand him, but I nodded, asked him if everything was to his liking. I've lived in a time of duty is what I want to tell my children. I've lived in a time of love. My lover brings me the hottest, bitterest coffee. I am grateful for this, but I am weeping for my non-children. I never lingered at Uncle Edmund's, never waited until the end of his meal. My grandfather waited until the end of his meals when he went. I went once with my grandfather. He spoke to his brother in low, almost dulcet tones. I'd never heard him speak like that before. My grandfather loved my mother dearly. She was his adopted child, but he held us both closer than blood. I tell you, I've lived in a time of miracles. I've lived because of miracles, and I want to tell my children this. Whatever we do, we're going to have to consider immense loss. That is all. That is the magic of old age. Immense loss side by side with love. How amazing to be Uncle Edmund, to live in a time, to be loved in a time of polio and malaria and yellow fever and dysentery. We all lived in a time when you could send a 10-year-old on a 4-mile walk and have him complete a task and return on time and with a beverage to boot. My grandfather buried Uncle Edmund in the family plot. He lit candles on All Saints' Day. I think we were the only ones at the funeral. This is also what it means to live in a time of polio, to be buried unknown but not any less loved than the Pope or the President. I want to tell my children this. We are all worried about not being good enough for love. Imagine all we have. Imagine all we love and live through. Imagine what a chance we have to endure the very worst that might come our way. In the January of 2008, when the preliminaries, they're not called the preliminary, primaries, right? When the primaries were going on. If you're black and over 35, say, you were pretty sure that there was no way Obama was going to win. Right? And you were also pretty sure that if he did win, somebody was going to kill him. Which is kind of borne out because he's had to field more death threats than the other 43 presidents combined, by the way. So, wasn't quite that funny. But then he won Iowa, right? And we were like, what? There's only white people there. And then he lost New Hampshire, and most of us said, all right, you know, the world is kind of making sense again. Then in January of 2008, this fool fucked around and won South Carolina. And at the time, I was in a hotel room in Lake Placid, New York. And I remember feeling very alone and very scared. And this was the poem that came out of it. And I think that, you know, we'll never run out of needing this poem. It's called American History Looks for Light, a prayer for the survival of Barack Obama in 5 voices. The epigraph is from Muhammad Ali. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. The hands can't touch what the eyes can't see. 1. The bullet speaks of purpose. Trajectory is everything. The difference between a kiss off the ribcage or the blessed blood of a ripe organ, the brain, protests the most. Neurons firing over and around the holy landing, trying to make sense of it, the wailing and the vivid snapshots, metal tendrils reaching, trying to block out the light. 2. Malcolm pulls Obama's coat. There is no doubt in my mind they will come for you. Dozens at a time. Miniature fighter planes built for just such an idealism as yours. They are amazing fish, fanning their steel gills like razors, formations neat and orderly as a school, barreling toward the heart, spleen, kidney, abdomen, anywhere there is light. 3. Obama plays the dozens. I'm so fast I'll be gone by trigger time. I'm so bad I beat Hillary by 30. I'm so slick, not even Bill could sink me. I'm so badass, my name is Barack. I'm so chameleon, my name is the same. I'm so pretty, your mama canvassed for me. I'm so pretty, your mama voted for me. I'm so pretty, your mama is my mama. I'm so good, I shook the world. I'm so fast, I dodged a circus of bullets. I'm so fast, I flick the switch and be in bed before the light comes off. 4. The bullet takes the bait. Neither disease nor plane crash, not knife, not hurricane, nor freak accident is as dramatic as me. See the body begin to decompose in an instant. See the body become particular. See the body become tendrils of impressionist thought. See how marvelous my entrance is, how devastating my exit wounds. I saved my best work for the stage. 5. Bruce Lee knows from bullets. See this, fist this, quick acapella kick, kung fu, showing up what? See this? Sidestep, taekwondo, don't you never think steel is hard as bone. Barack, I legacy you, me. Every dragon flow, strict mantis pose struck with cobra swift release. Don't you never think steel is hard like home. See this river flow bone. See how bullets bury what they cannot kill. See how I live ecstatic. Fly, jump, suit, dramatic. Barack, I legacy you, me, like I loaned Muhammad the butterfly and the bee. We stay vested, historically protected bee. We battle terrific. Fuck Chuck Norris. Me and Jim Kelly's got your hood and your dome. Don't you never think steel is hard as stone. Allegory of the house with no name. 1. You begin again with a pattern so recognizable it startles with its familiarity. First, the mornings, how they drag with the ache, the heart's bullshit machine straining to whir into a drone you can call belief. You survey the wind-strewn lot and name the detritus. You've become such a fixture here, even your friends don't panic to find you, a derelict among his broken playthings, muttering over and over to himself, content to receive guests in a moth-eaten bathrobe and bare feet. Then how her name comes, shows up uninvited to things, the short, trochaic drum of it. It's beautiful, really. You opine to no one in particular again and again. You remember the landscape of her everything, how your hand wandered her nose, belly, hip, knees, arch of shoulder, the half-pipe of her bottom, and now the everyday hum of loss, how much time you're spending staring at your hands, how they build, how they break, how they build, how you called her by her name twice, like a prayer. 2. Your father's voice gets warier from his half-world away. You prepare your life to go see him, and now you panic with the thought of what you must bring. You've been preparing to ask these questions all your adult life, but now they're edged in something formal, ceremonial, as if they're part of the larger house you're gaining. You need to inquire after this fucked up inheritance, the stoic management of the heart the body convenes again and again. You want him to tell you from his massive bedroom, which takes up an entire wing of his house, that it'll stop hurting eventually. That alone will be fine. A country ungoverned and secure. That he's bequeathed you quite enough to weather this life you've made and made again, a quilt repeating its warp and weft into something like a legacy. 3. How do you ask about regret? How to broach the question of your own birth as if you don't know you're inquiring after his death? How do you tell your gentle, laughing father that you're really wondering about a woman as you ask him to tell his history into the quiet whir of the recorder? How will you tell him you're looking for sanctuary in his story? 4. You're moving again. You've got better at some things. You make budgets now. You slow long enough to name things. Black-eyed Susans, locusts, wind chimes, the Chicago River, gardenias, dragonflies. At the corner of Broadway and Bryn Mawr, you burst into tears, but you're a blur now, pushing your bicycle through the red light so fast, no one can tell it's you screaming down Wilson until you're long past. This is where you live now, Sacramento, Albany, Kedzie, Kimball. You have to begin building something, so you wonder, why not with her? Thank God for your roommates. Thank God the house is quiet just now. Thank God you can get drunk in your room's squalor and not name your panic. You do the safest thing you know now, return to the body. You crunch and push up and stretch and shadow box and hit the heavy bag until your calloused palms, your scarred ribs say no more, no more. It is midnight. You look in the mirror. You want to be reassured that everything will turn out just right. The mirror says nothing. You're dripping in sweat and the body is the only control you own, and you're going to ask your father about music and blood and your mother and the abandonment of your infancy. You can rewrite all this. But who you kidding? All you have is your body and its unreliable, scheming heart. You know where the questions will take you. There'll be a bottle of exquisite rum, and fried shark, and a walk to the pan yard, and you'll both be awash in the music, and then the morning. You'll both awake and quietly go to what you both have learned to control, side by side, running and lifting, bargaining anew with death every morning. Funny how you've developed these exact routines a lifetime away from each other. How you've made yourself into your father, even without him, for example. What will this sweet man tell you now that your body doesn't already know? What equation to unlock fear do you imagine he can reveal? Epilogue. Remember, this was about a woman. This was about your